All right. Well, I'm Scott Johannes. Oversee the missions here with Angela Ash.
Hello.
She spent the summer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm going to get this right. I've been working on Vanuatu.
Vanuatu. Yeah, good job.
First time I've said it without asking.
Woohoo. Celebration.
So, yes. So, but I know it's a speck. It's an island. Tell us about where Vanuatu is.
So Vanuatu is in the South Pacific. So the way I like to explain it is say like this box here is Australia, then there's these little islands over here, and this is Vanuatu. So I should know how many islands it is. I feel like it's 80 some islands make up Vanuatu. And yeah.
I knew it was a bunch because I remember you telling us. So I guess we should have said this at the beginning. You were on would it be considered an internship?
Yeah, an internship with Pioneer Bible Translators.
Okay. Tell us just briefly about Pioneer Bible Translators.
Yeah, Pioneer Bible Translators, there's some explanation in the name. They translate the Bible. They're in a lot of different countries translating the Bible, but their vision is not just to translate the Bible, but to partner that with church planning and scripture use to make sure that they're not only there translating the Bible, but that they're also making sure people are using it. And yeah, so that's what they do.
So they don't want to just translate the Bible and it just sit on somebody's shelf.
Yeah, that's not the goal at all.
So, okay. In thinking about this is the 21st century. Does everybody, or what's the percentage, or maybe you don't know this, of the written language around the world?
In the world? Oh, I should know some stats.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. But,
yeah, I don't know how many in the world.
So there is a number that do not have a written language.
Yeah, so some people don't have a written language at all, and it's just oral.
Okay.
But then, like, some people have a written language, but they might not have the Bible in that language. Or some people might not have a written language, but they have an oral translation. So, yeah, there's lots of...
In the Vanuatu, while you were there, you were working with some groups with their written language. Mm-hmm. That how much of the Bible is translated, or is it translated for them?
Yeah, so Pioneer Bible Translators works with 4 languages in Vanuatu, and 2 of those languages already have New Testaments. So they're working on the Old Testament, and then 2 of those languages have nothing at all until PBT started working with them. So right now they have like the first 12 chapters of Genesis, and I think some like Joshua, some Psalms are being worked on, so nearly nothing, and they're just starting on some.
Okay. And I was thinking about this, I thought of just a ton of questions about us. You know, as you're talking about part of Genesis and other sections, Joshua and some others, they don't translate straight through. They just do they start to translate some different stories?
Right. So there's so many different translation strategies that people use in different parts of the world. In Vanuatu, the PBT team is doing something called VISTA. So that stands for Vanuatu Institute of Scripture Translation and Application. I have to think about it every time. So they train nationals to do Bible translation. They have 15 different nationals that they're working with right now, and they take them in a month at a time, every 3 months, and have them all come in to do training. And they train to do different kinds of translation. So one module was like Old Testament narrative and making sure that they can use the Hebrew to translate. And then sometimes they study Aramaic to translate, and sometimes they're studying poetry so they can do Psalms and Proverbs. So the reason that they're not going straight through is that they're learning the different kinds of literature that there are in the Bible so that they can translate those well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start talking a little bit about, you were there for how long?
I was in Vanuatu for 7 weeks.
7 weeks?
Yeah.
Obviously this is a long-term project. In 7 weeks, what did you get to do? What were you a part of?
Lots of random things. So one thing that we did were, if I can speak, we were part of one of the modules. So like I said, there's VISTA that has the national translators coming in, and we were part of a computer module. So the translators, most of them have never touched a computer in their lives, but they're wanting them to be able to use computers so they can use Bible translation software to make the translation go faster. Okay. So we got to like stand over their shoulders and be like, okay, so this is you moving the mouse, and if you click this, then it takes you here. So we're just helping them learn basic computer skills. So that was one thing. Another thing was just language learning. When you're in a country for like a week, you don't have time to really learn the language, but we were there for 7 weeks, which gave us a chance to learn Bislama, which Bislama is the language that everyone in Vanuatu speaks, there's 100 languages represented in Vanuatu. But
okay, I'm gonna insert there. You got 100 languages in Vanuatu. How many different people? What's the population?
About 300,000.
So roughly the size of Des Moines, you have 100 different languages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those that we may have to pause and let everybody wrap your mind around that piece right there. And then there's, already said roughly 80 different islands.
Right.
And you spent some time on about five different islands in 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, then go back to, I'm sorry, I interrupted. What we were
doing. So, I was saying that we were doing some language learning because in 7 weeks there was time for us to sit down and learn some Bislama. Bislama is a pidgin language that's mostly English based and has some French and then like some influence from all the languages in Vanuatu. So a lot of the words in Bislama sound really familiar, like they sound like English. But
like tell us good day or greeting.
Well, to say hello, it's mostly like good morning, hello. So that sounds normal. Oh. But like if I want to introduce myself, I would say Name me Angela.
Oh, okay.
So
name me Lee and
Scott. Name blow you Scott.
Name blow Scott.
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually, for the first 2 weeks we were there, we spent like 2 hours a day doing language learning, which at first was really frustrating for me and I was struggling, but then it became really fun. And like by the time we were leaving Vanuatu, I got to just have random conversations with nationals. I got to like go to a handicraft store and talk with this lady and tell her that we were there and we were helping with these things, and she got all excited. She's like, "Whoa, you speak Bislama, I don't have to speak English to you." She was really excited about it. But yeah, so that was one thing. We were there so the first half we were with Vista where they were training the nationals, and the second half we went to some literacy workshops on different islands. So the first half, like we were with Vista, but we were also making literacy materials like storybooks with the creation story or with Noah's Ark, but in their language.
Okay.
Or we made other booklets, some scripture portions in their language to take to the literacy workshops so that they could learn to read in their language. Because everyone in Bislama, everyone in Vanuatu is educated in either English or French, and they all learn Bislama. So they know how to read in English or French, and they know how to read in Bislama, but they've never read in their language. So some of the languages that we went to were Havai and Abma, and they've never read in those languages, even though that's like their heart language and their mother tongue. So they've spoken that, but not read. So we did like some transfer literacy workshops where it's like, okay, you know how to read in Bislama, you know how to read in English, now take those skills and read in your language. So we got to be there for that.
Was there some excitement among them when they could read in their heart language?
Yeah. So I didn't get to be in the room when this was happening, but during one of the literacy workshops, this is the language where they don't have the New Testament. They only have a few chapters of Genesis. And they were reading one chapter of Genesis, and they're reading, and then they stop and they're like, oh, I get it. This is why you're translating the Bible. This is so clear. Because at first they didn't understand, like, we have the Bislama Bible, we can read an English Bible, we're fine. But then they're reading in their language and they're like, oh, this makes so much sense. We do need the Bible in our language because this makes so much more sense to us. So
okay, that's interesting, because I mean here they didn't really even see the need, but yet pioneer Bible translators did. Mm-hmm. And what that would mean to them, and that would be really cool to be there when that transpired, and just understand. So that's great. Yeah. Now you did all that. Tell us a little bit about the island. I mean, you several islands. Obviously, you missed a few with only hitting 5 of them.
Right.
But you're in the South Pacific. Vanuatu, we've never, I mean, probably majority of the United States people have never heard of it. Yeah,
I hadn't heard of it until I applied for the internship. So, yeah.
So you didn't pick hey, let me go to Vanuatu.
No, I just wanted to go somewhere to learn about Bible translation, and Vanuatu was a place I could do that. So then I found out and I went there.
And so what were you expecting to go, what were you expecting to find?
I was expecting to go there and kind of live in the bush. So like lots of jungly area. And I knew it was island, so I was expecting to see some of the beach and like see some nice looking things. But I was expecting it to like be in the bush and less developed. But then I go there, and so we don't know about Vanuatu in America really. But for people from Australia or New Zealand, Vanuatu's kind of like their Hawaii. Like we're all like, oh, we want to go to Hawaii for a nice vacation and like all the tropical, blah, blah, blah. Vanuatu's like that for them. So I go there and we're on the plane and there's all these videos of like people dancing in all these places. And I'm like, that looks like a vacation spot. We're not going on vacation. This is a mission trip. What? So, and then we get there and I'm like, oh, okay. So people do come here for tourism. This is weird. But then Vanuatu is so much more than that. So even though like it's a touristy place and people go there for vacation, it was fun to be there and see like, no, this is real people. It's not just a tourism destination.
So then tourism is probably their leading industry.
Yeah, tourism is their biggest industry. And then like they do gardening to make food and they have towns. So there's like normal jobs for people, but the big thing is tourism.
Okay, somehow connected to that. And cruise ships come in and all that sits on an island. Would have never thought, probably.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
Pleasant surprise that it's not a hut.
Yeah, I was surprised. We had a Western toilet like everywhere we went, except for there was this one place we went to a church, and then like going to the bathroom after that, it was like this little shack with a wooden box on it. So like then you're like, it's wood. Am I supposed to sit on this or squat over it? I don't really know. But that was the only weird toilet we ever used. All the rest of them were like normal Western toilets. So I was not expecting that either.
Well, I want to ask you then, through that experience, obviously open yourself up to where God is leading you. Mm-hmm. What did He teach you in your 7 weeks, basically down under on the other side of the world? Yeah.
So I went into the internship like wanting to do a Bible translation internship because I was like, I love linguistics and Bible translation, it'd be perfect. So I go in and I'm like, I'm gonna go see Bible translation and I'm gonna love it and I'm gonna be a Bible translator. And then I get there and like when we were with the Bible translators, it was really cool and that was fascinating. But I found that my favorite things to do were like serving in little ways, like when we were making the literacy materials and just stapling paper together to help people, or when I was cooking food for my team and things like that. Like those are my favorite tasks. So I learned that I love serving, like way more than I knew I did. So that was a fun thing to learn about myself. But alongside that, so seeing like, oh, these are the things I love to do, I was also learning at the same time that God uses people of all different gifts and talents and abilities. Like watching the team in Vanuatu, there's 3 families with PBT there right now, and like some of them are Bible translators. One is a literacy specialist. One is the wife of the translator, and she doesn't have like an official role. They call her role hospitality, but the thing that she does on their team is every week she makes an American dish for the team to eat together so that they have American food that just like helps them be like, okay, we can make it even though life here is different. It's okay. So like even though she doesn't have this role where she's like the Bible translator, her role of like hospitality is really important. So it was really cool to me to see like there's so many valuable roles that God uses for people. So that's one thing. The other thing is I saw how important Bible translation is. So one thing was like when we were on the island and the person at the literacy workshop was like, whoa, this is why you're translating the Bible. It's so clear. This is why we need the Bible. Another thing that happened at a different literacy workshop was the literacy workshop was over and then the lady in charge handed out certificates to every participant to say like, okay, you finished this workshop, you can read in your language, now go teach others. Like you have these materials, you have everything you need, go teach others to read in your language. And she handed out the certificates. And then this 70-year-old man stands up and he's like, I am an educated man. I've received certificates from the government and church and education, but this is the first time that I've ever received a certificate in my language. So before that, it's only been Bislama in English. So he has a certificate in his language and he's like, and now I feel empowered. Like I feel like I can go out there and teach and keep working and keep doing ministry. And it was cool. He's going on and on about this certificate and I'm sitting there and I'm like, if this is the impact of a certificate in someone's language, like what's the impact of scripture? That's huge. So I definitely saw the need for Bible translation, and I know I want to do something to support that, whether that's being a translator or some behind the scenes role, kind of like the lady who does hospitality on her team. Yeah.
So you'll be heading back to school, or
yes.
When this films, actually it'll be down at Ozark.
It's true, yeah. I'm at
Ozark Christian College. So is this your last year there?
Kind of. I have a year and a semester.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 3 more semesters.
Yep.
And still kind of open to see where, it sounds like you're still open to see where God's
Yeah.
leading you in the
We'll see.
beyond. So, well, I thank you. You know, it was one of those things you also kind of gave a great plug that I wanted to follow up on just all the different gifts that are used on the missions field, and really that anybody can be used short-term, long-term in the mission field, presenting the gospel and reaching out to people. So you are called. We are all called to go. So as Angela has just shared with us, and you never know what you're going to find. She was expecting a hut and found the South Pacific island that was pretty westernized. So pretty cool,
Yeah.
fun stuff when you open up yourself to God and see where He's going to lead you. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.